Hello and welcome to day 3 of the Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network International Women's Week. My name is Chloe. I'm one of the enterprise coordinators here in Kent and Medway, and I'm one of the project leads for this week's events. So myself and the rest of the team have been working hard to pull this event together all week for you. So I hope you're enjoying it so far. This week is all about raising aspirations, motivation, and challenging stereotypical thinking of women in the workplace. Our aim is to inspire the young people of Kent and Medway through fantastic 90-minute broadcasts consisting of recorded interviews and live speakers. We're going to hear from inspirational role models from a range of different industries and about their experiences and journeys. The theme for today is you. So reflecting on your skills and interests to help shape your own career journey. Alongside this event and all the others throughout the week, we are running a social media campaign through our Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor LinkedIn page and Instagram page, showcasing inspirational quotes from women and men in business, as well as hearing more employer videos. All events from this week will be available to view after the event on our new Kent and Medway World of Work YouTube channel. So before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about myself and about my journey so that you can see how everyone's career journeys are all a little bit different. So when I was at school, I studied performing arts, English, art. They were my favourite subjects. I was convinced that when I was older, I was going to go into a stage management role. I stage managed many different performances, and I loved that aspect. I ended up in college after that studying media production, so web design, photography, and video making. And that's where my love of film came about. And I actually ended up then going to university to study film more and specialising more in film producing. At the end of my university career, I created an award-winning documentary, which I was really proud of. And then I set up my own freelance video business. So filming weddings, promotional videos, and different training videos. I lived down in West Sussex for a few years straight after university, and like most people trying to finish university, trying to get some money. So I worked for a pet microchip company, which was a random job, wasn't in my plan, but actually I learned so much from it. I got to attend events like Crufts and big vet conferences and stay in fancy hotels. So yeah, it was great fun, and I learned a lot from that role. My circumstances changed after that, and I moved back to Kent, and I moved back in with my parents. An opportunity came up in London and at a business university, and I thought, oh, I've never considered working in higher education before, but actually this role still has those creative elements. And I think that's the main thing for me, is that although I've done many different roles, that creativity has always been in all of my roles. So I thought, why not? Let's have a go. Let's try something new. So I worked in several universities in London for the next 7 years. I managed their skills programs. I had my own team. I was voted in as co-chair of a national skills task group. And probably the highlight of my career was then being invited to the Houses of Parliament to talk about the impact of my programme. I absolutely loved my job. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved my team. And, you know, I got to do so much, but I still encompassed all of my video editing and creativity in all the roles I did whilst working in those universities. Again, circumstances changed. I couldn't commute from Kent to London anymore. It was taking up 4 hours of my day every day. So I thought, right, so it's time for something new. I knew I wanted to stay in education. I knew I wanted to stay in careers and employability, but I wanted something a little bit more local, and I wanted to support the local community. So I got the job in the education people, and that's where I am now. I worked for the last year as an engagement officer, so working with a range of schools and supporting their at-risk of NEET young people. And now I work as an enterprise coordinator, doing events like we're doing today, and still working with schools and colleges to help support their careers programs. So why have I told you all of this? Why have I listed off from beginning to end of where I've come from? I just want to let you know that everyone's career paths are different. They're not a straight line. So if you don't know what you want to do and you're sitting as a year 10 or year 11 student, or maybe you're just about to finish sixth form and you think you have to have all the answers right now, you don't. And there's no harm if you change your mind. Your transferable skills, your experiences, and the network that you will build from all the different industries and all the different roles and all the different places that you work is completely invaluable and actually will help shape the person that you are. So that's just a little bit about me. I hope that helps paint a good picture of just one experience of a career path. And I now have the pleasure of introducing our first group of inspirational speakers. These are recordings from three very different industries. We're going to hear from a lady called Abby, a lady called Tony, and a lady called Chanel. So please enjoy.
Hi, my name is Abby Hearn, and I would describe myself as having two jobs. I'm a divisional manager for Eurovia Contracting, managing a highly skilled team of 100 individuals, delivering a range of highways infrastructure and civil engineering projects and surfacing schemes across the southwest. I'm also a mum of two beautiful girls. So how did I get here? I came into construction not as a conscious decision. It kind of found me. I graduated from university with a major minor degree in geography, business studies and economics. I wanted a job, so I took the first opportunity that interested me, and it was a business development role on a temporary contract with a national contractor. And the team there, they recognised something in me and they asked me to join them on a permanent basis and to join their graduate programme. The programme was designed to give us all a look at all aspects of the business, to expose us to all aspects of the business, so we could find our own niche. And I excelled on site. So they moulded me into a site manager, and then later I was promoted to contracts manager. We're now going back 20 years. So there's one thing that you need to know about me. I'm unconventional. Raised neutral by my parents, they ensured that I was able to develop in my own space. I was able to create my own identity, and they supported and encouraged me to make my own choices whenever possible. And I was encouraged to play with all toys, participate in all activities, and was able to pick my own style of clothing, disregarding any stereotypes. So how do people react to my career choice? Well, it didn't really matter to me. I enjoy what I do. I seek to challenge the status quo, just merely by setting out to prove that I can do something just as well as anybody else. I'm a divisional manager within Eurovia that just happens to be female. So what? I'm a person like anybody else. So if I could give myself, my younger self, a bit of advice, it would be this. Just be a bit more confident. Speak up and stop worrying about everything and just take a chance. So how do you define success? How do I define success? Well, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And if I could give you all a bit of advice, do something that you really enjoy. Don't settle. I enjoy my job. It helps me provide for my family. It shows my girls that you can do anything you want to if you just put your mind to it. Remain open-minded. There is no bar. Just keep pushing. So what for the future? So for me, I like working at Eurovia. I will keep pushing boundaries. I work in a great team, and I will keep encouraging my girls to do the same, to push, to look for and learn to recognise opportunities that are going to interest you, and just grab them when they come your way. I look forward to hearing your stories one day. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tony Eastwood, and I am the founder of an organisation called Quantum Vantage. I specialise in helping women at a crossroads in their lives. I specialise in helping them get focus, get laser vision around what it is that they really want to achieve next. I help them build their confidence, help them to grab the bull by the horns, and to take their life into their own hands and to build the career or business of their dreams. However, my story is a long and hard one, and I've never really shared it, and in a way I've always been a little bit embarrassed to share it, but I feel like now's the time, and I'm hoping that through this small video that some young girls and young women at school or in their early career may be able to take the motivation from what I have to say to realise that no matter what happens to you through the inevitable ups and downs of life, you can achieve your dreams. You can do whatever it is that you want to do if you put your mind to it. No matter what's happening right now, you can overcome that. So when I was 5 years old, I went back to school after a lovely lunch with my mum. Pilchers on toast, and that was a thing, disgusting, but I'd gone back to school and I was happy-go-lucky. I'd never really had a care in the world. After all, I was only 5. But when I got back to the little hut that was my classroom on a beautiful summer's day, the grass had been freshly cut and it smelt gorgeous. I got into the hut and this girl come up to me. Her name was Lisa, and everybody loved Lisa. She was very pretty, tall, dark hair. Everyone loved her. Everyone wanted to be her friend. And she gave me this little envelope that said she was inviting me to her party, her birthday party. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm being invited to the party by Lisa. Everybody loves Lisa. Anyway, I noticed on the envelope that she'd given me that she spelt my name wrong, Tony with a Y. So I said to her, hey Lisa, you've spelt my name wrong. My name's Tony with an I. And with that, she snatched the envelope out of my hand and said, well, you can't come to my party then. And I remember for the first time ever feeling really embarrassed, and my eyes prickled at the back and I started to cry. And I was in front of all my classmates and I felt really silly. And from that moment on, I really started to lose my confidence. In addition to Lisa, there was another girl in school who followed me until I was 15. Her name was Nadine and she was my nemesis. And one minute we were like that, best friends, and then the next minute she hated me. She called me names. She turned every other girl in our class against me, and she was a real bully. She quite often picked on me on the way home from school. She would poke me in the back. She would say she wanted to fight, and literally we would have fights in the field around the corner to where I lived. I never shared any of this with my mum or dad. And it got to the point where actually I was so scared of what might be happening. I used to get up really early and I used to run to school really, really early, and I used to hide in a little cubby hole by the doors until the caretaker came along, and I knew that once he'd opened up, I'd jump into the classroom where I would be safe because the teacher used to get in early. And then the minute the bell went at 3 o'clock to go home, I would actually run out of school and I'd charge through what used to be my little infant school, run through the playground and out through the gates until I'd catch up with one of my mum's friends picking her children up from school. And once I got there, I knew I'd be safe and I could get home from school without another fight. This went on till I was 14, 15 years old. And I was a very quiet, shy individual and very timid. And then one day, in the summer holidays, I went out and I started getting involved in things I was really interested in. So athletics and gymnastics and ballroom dancing. And I joined lots of different clubs and I went to lots of different things where I met loads of people. And I soon started to come out of my shell. I soon started to feel comfortable and more confident in myself. And guess what? I made friends really easily. We went out on little trips and we went into town and went to do little girly shopping together. And I absolutely loved that summer. It was probably the best summer that I'd ever had. And like I say, when I went back to school, it was completely different. I was sitting with a couple of girls on a little bench before we went into the classroom, and Nadine walked up and she was quite sheepish. And I think that that confidence that had grown in me was obviously oozing out of me. And I think when you change your attitude, it comes from within, that actually I'm not going to be messed with anymore. I always want to be the nice person. So I said hi to Nadine, how was your summer? And from that moment on, she never picked on me another day. Something dawned on me and I realised that Nadine had quite a sad life. She didn't have a very stable family. She had stuff going on with her dad and her brothers and her sisters. Her mum and dad had split up. Her mum had left home, leaving the children on their own. And perhaps that's why she picked on me, that she just wasn't happy. And I always think that with bullies is generally there's something going on in the background for them. So what I try to do is just send them love. I've forgiven her. I realise I am the person that I am today because of what she did to me and what she went through. I realised that what that taught me was grit and determination and resilience, and no matter what happens, you stand up, you brush yourself down and you get on. And if only someone had said that to me all those years ago, who knows what difference that might have made for me. I look back now with thankfulness and gratitude and realise that what that built in me was strength and resilience and character that has never gone away. Life never runs smoothly. Stuff is thrown at you all of the time. So no matter what you are aiming to do, there are always going to be obstacles. And realising that, for me, was one of the most powerful things in my career. I just wish I'd known it earlier, and I just wish that I'd been able to have that message to me, to my 15-year-old self, to say, actually, you're going to be successful, Tony. You're going to overcome all your fears. You're going to be able to have a life where you're supporting other women like yourself and have a really successful business. And actually, 10 years ago, I was awarded an OBE for my services to equal opportunities and for the work that I've done helping women achieve what it is that they want to achieve. I want you to have a big dream. I want you to dare to dream things that you've never dared to dream in your life yet. I want you to be proud. I want you to really love yourself and believe in yourself, and know that whatever it is you want to achieve, that you can achieve it. And the only place that that needs to come from is from within you. You have in you all the skills, all the belief that you need to achieve anything that you want to achieve in your life. So stand tall, stand proud, and go out and get what it is that you want to get. Go out and achieve what it is that you want to achieve, because You've got this and you can do this.
So Chanel, tell us about your racing journey.
So my books at school were always plastered in pictures of cars and motorsport, and my teacher noticed that I had a passion for all things cars. So his brother had a racing team and he offered me to go along and help out and volunteer my time, from washing wheels to mechanical fixtures, until the age of 14, where I got the opportunity to go on track myself and drive a car, and it turned out I had a pretty unique talent, and then my racing career developed from there. So my main obstacle was probably back in 2017. My rival and I were battling out for the championship, and he became rather aggressive on and off track, so I had to learn a lot of self-control and how to keep my cool. It's important to remember why you're there and not to get sidetracked. I'm really lucky to have a really supportive family. They've been there through all the highs and all the lows of my career. A network of support is important in a sport. At school, my friends didn't really understand why I had to commit so much time to the racing, and I was subjected to a little bit of sexism from the boys who didn't really believe in women in motorsport. What inspires me the most is the diversity of being a woman in a male-dominated industry. There's not enough of us, and there should be more, so the more young women I can inspire to go into the male-dominated worlds, the better. I'm really excited to be working with the Community Driving School as an ambassador. Their pupils really inspire me to keep going and defy all the odds. They're just some really amazing people. I would tell my younger self that you need to chase your dreams, no matter how impossible they may seem, because you never quite know where you're going to end up. My message to all the young girls would be to do what you want to do and make sure you enjoy it. There's a lot of pressure these days from social media and conforming to stereotypes, but you don't have to do that. Go and tackle the male-dominated industries. In the future, I see myself competing within the male-dominated world of the British Touring Car Championships. Hopefully, by the time we achieve that goal, there'll be more females in the sport.
Great. What great videos. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories today, Abby, Tony and Chanel. Truly inspirational. So up next, we are joined by a live guest. We are joined by Lynette Wood, who is a key account manager at Almarose Hotel and Resorts. Lynette, if you'd like to pop your camera on. So Lynette is going to be speaking to us live. So after she's done her presentation, we will be taking some questions, or Lynette will be taking some questions, many questions.
You can answer them for me.
So Lynette will be doing her presentation, put anything in the chat box, and then she'll be happy to answer anything. So Lynette, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chloe. And I feel like, goodness, I've had to follow a racing driver in this, but there we go. So as Chloe said, I'm a key account manager for Almarose Hotels and Resorts. And some of those you might think, Almarose Hotels and Resorts, they are the owners of the people that own the Ashford International Hotel. So if you are in Kent, obviously, and you know that hotel, that's the big hotel that's in Ashford. So that is the one that obviously you might recognise, and I will share some other hotels that we have as well across the board. So I've heard a couple of videos and I want to talk about my career and how I came to where I came to. Now, I actually, when I was at school, I wanted to be a midwife. So hospitality is nowhere near delivering babies. But I decided I went and worked part-time at a restaurant in Ashford, and that's where I started. I was a commie waitress, not necessarily known much anymore, but I used to make all the desserts. I mean, when you're 16 and making, you know, peach melbas and banana splits, etc., which I still know how to make, that's where I just found my love of hospitality and the love of talking to people. And that's really where sort of I came from, really. And then I moved away when I was 17 to a restaurant in Elstree. And I stayed there for a year, and then I came back, and that's when I started my career, obviously more as a receptionist, and that's where it goes. So next slide, please. So this is obviously where I started my career. So I started as a receptionist actually at the Holiday Inn in Ashford. I just did 3 days a week because I do have 2 children. They're now 22 and 15, both girls. So I did 3 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, and I absolutely loved it. I did 7 till 3, 3 days a week, and as I say, that's where my sort of love for the hospitality industry, talking to people, started. And anybody that really knows me will know I love talking, so perfect job for me. I then to work on into reservations, and I worked a little bit in reservations there, and then I went to work in the accounts department. And one of the reasons why I went to work in the accounts department is because my eldest daughter started school. So I worked in the accounts department. I did 9 till 3, 5 days a week, and that fit perfectly. And I was chasing people with their debts and things, people that owed money to the hotel. So that's why I moved into there. Then I went to work as a PA to the general manager, and again, that was a great job for me, 9 till 3, and I was the gatekeeper. You know, someone to talk to the general manager, I'd go, what do you need to come and speak to the general manager for? You know, felt like I was super important, but I again loved it. And when I did that job, I sort of got involved with the sales a little bit more. We organised events for our corporate accounts. And I then asked if I could go to these events, so these are corporate accounts, and that's really where my love of sales and again talking came to. So this is one of the reasons why I moved into sales. So when the sales manager left the hotel, a job came up as a sales manager. Now I was the personal assistant to the general manager, and this was a sales manager's job. So as you can imagine, the sliding scale was quite large. But I wanted to go for it. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. So I went for the job. I had an interview with the current director of sales. And if I'm really honest, she wasn't keen. She was a bit like, you haven't got any ideas in sales. And she'd asked me all these questions in the interviews, and I didn't really know the answers to them. But the general manager at the time, who I was his PA to, he just said, Lynette knows his accounts. She knows the customers. She knows how to deal with them. You know, anything else that we can teach her, she can learn along the way. So they offered me a sales executive role, which is sort of one down, I suppose, from a sales manager role. And that's where it just sort of started. I loved going out, meeting people, going out the hotel to the appointments, etc. I just, honestly, it was like amazing. And then that was in the September. And then in the December, things sort of started to happen around the economy, and hotels wasn't great. You know, we were in sort of 2009, 2010. So they decided to cluster the role. We had 4 hotels at the time in our area. So we had the Holiday Inns in Ashford, Rochester, Maidstone and Bexley, and they were going to decide to bring cluster managers. Now, they're never going to give me the job. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd only been in the job 3 or 4 months. The director of sales didn't want to give me the job in the first place. But, you know, I persevered. I worked really, really hard on that consultation process. And in the January of that year, I was awarded the job as a cluster sales manager for 4 hotels. So maybe a bit of luck, maybe the fact that I was so passionate and I really wanted to do it. I don't know what it was, but I was so thankful to the director of sales, who is still a very good friend of mine now. So that was 2010, sort of really in 2011. And then more changes happened along the way, and I'd been with Holiday Inn for 13 years by the time I decided to leave. And one of the reasons why I decided to leave was because I thought, if you actually slip my wrists, they might be green of Holiday Inn blood. But I decided then to move on to go to the Maidstone Great Danes Hotel, if anybody knows it, because they have huge conference facilities, and I thought I needed to understand and work with meetings and events. So I did that for 4 years. Then my dream job came up. The director of sales at the Ashford International Hotel. When I was a little sales exec at the Holiday Inn, that hotel was just around the corner, and I wanted to go for it. And I was delighted that I started there in June 2018. Along the way, things change. We've got new owners. That's the reason why you've maybe never heard of Almarose Hotels, and they've changed the policy, etc. So we were put on consultation, and we moved into key account managers in August 2019. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind career, but I am so passionate about hospitality, and not because the jobs that I've listed are the only jobs that are available within hospitality career, but there are so many jobs available, and I would urge anybody to have a look at them. So if we could go to the next slide, I've just listed some jobs on there that I think would be relevant. So I genuinely think if you go into a hotel, you think the jobs there are, you know, a chef, maybe the housekeepers, you're checking people in, you're waiting, etc. on the teams, on the staff. But honestly, the lists are endless. So on there, we've got marketing. So if you wanted to do marketing or a marketing degree, you know, if you wanted to be a spa therapist, a personal trainer, a financial controller, a revenue analyst. And now I love a spreadsheet. So if you love a bit of maths and spreadsheet, that's definitely the job for you. Customer service, maintenance, a gardener, a golf pro. You know, there are so many jobs available in hospitality, and I don't know if you can tell, but I absolutely love it. And I just think that it's definitely a career that you can sort of move into. And what do you need to work in hospitality? Absolutely. Some of those jobs you will need a degree, you will need to go to college, you know, marketing degrees, or, you know, a finance degree, an accounting degree. Absolutely. But, you know, key skills for hospitality for anybody are polite, caring, customer skills, hardworking, and a can-do attitude that you want to work and move into that sort of time, obviously, where you want to work, you know, customer says, and don't get me wrong, the customer's not always right, but at the same time, it's just those different things. So yes, okay, you need a degree level, but I think that hospitality is a great way that you can sort of move up those levels. So please don't panic if you're not quite sure what you want to do. And as Chloe said right at the beginning, why she rambled on about those, no, not rambled on, but, you know, why she talked about all those different levels, because not everybody's career takes that, you know, you're not at 16 and you go, well, I want to do X, or I want to do X. You know, I didn't necessarily know at 16, I never knew that, you know, come my age now, that I would be a key account manager in hospitality, but I have definitely loved it and grown through the business. And there's lots of jobs around like that. So next slide, please. Now, this is just a map of all of our hotels. So I know some of you might be thinking, I don't want to stay in Kent, you know, I want to travel the world. And these are our hotels, Almarose Hotels, that were in the UK. But these hotels within the UK, we have, you know, we've got Hilton hotels, we've got Marriott hotels within our portfolio. And, you know, those are worldwide. You can travel the world working hospitality. And also, the best bit about hospitality is, I don't like to pay more than £50 to stay in a hotel. Staff rates are amazing. The perks of hospitality are amazing. And I can't recommend it enough. Next slide, please. So I have rambled on about, you know, everything that's going on. You hope you can tell my passion for this career, you know, and I would say to anybody that's looking at a career in hospitality, you know, just go for it. You can start off as a waitress or a waiter or on reception, you know, part-time jobs at weekends. You know, there are so many ways you can get into it to see if it's something you want to do. And I just think it's brilliant. And you could, you know, be like me and just be so passionate about it in, you know, 25 years time. So that's it. I think I've got time at the moment. I know there's a couple of questions. I will talk about things in terms of, hopefully there's some questions about, you know, who I look up to, any quotes and things that I've got. So hopefully that's good enough. And over to you, Chloe.
Great. Wow, Lynette, that was amazing. As we were watching that, myself and my colleagues are all putting things on our chat, and literally every single person just said, I want to work in a hotel now. I want to work in a hotel now. And I was sitting there thinking, the first thing I'm going to say when I come back on, I was like, I'm moving industry and I'm going to come and work with you in this role or like in this industry, because honestly, it was amazing. There's so much I didn't know. There's so many roles that you don't really think about that actually come into hospitality. So thank you, and thank you for your presentation. And you weren't rambling. It was everything was perfect. Yeah, great. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then I'm going to invite Usha, my colleague, to come onto the screen too, who I know has been collecting some questions for you to answer too. So firstly, because this week is all about inspiration and inspiring other people, my first question will be, who inspires you? Who is your role model and why?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? Because you think, well, there's so many. So obviously, I think my mum has always been my role model. You know, she always has worked hard. She was a single parent from when we were teenagers. And I just think that how she has always, you know, worked hard, do you know what I mean? Worked as many hours she possibly could to pay for everything. She definitely is my role model in my life. Who my role model is in work, I probably would say Veronica Kingham. She's the general manager at the Ashford International Hotel, but I've known Veronica for a long time. And when I talked about the fact that I was a PA to general manager, I was actually a PA to Veronica back in the day, and we've built a friendship. And then when I moved to Ashford International as the director of sales, she was the general manager there. So that's how that career has come round. And she is just one inspirational lady. You know, she's brilliant to work for. She loves hospitality as much as I do, and I think that we share that passion. And I think, yes, she definitely is in my work life.
Oh, great. Great. You actually answered the other question that I had written down. So I am going to ask it again, just because I think it's good to reinforce the answer to this. So you've been in the industry for over 25 years, and you mentioned there are some key skills. You've done various roles. What are the key skills that maybe have run throughout all the jobs? Are there some key skills that are transferable across all these roles that you've found over the years?
Absolutely. I definitely think, one of the things is to have that can-do attitude, that you want to do and you want to do well and you want to be there for your customers and for your business as well. And I think that's the thing, is that there's a very fine line between, business needs and customer needs. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes. And I think that I've definitely learned that along the way. And, sometimes as a salesperson, salespeople, we want this business and we want to do this and let's just do this. And, the revenue analyst is going, well, hang on a minute, that's not profitable business, and I think that there is definitely some skills there that you have to sort of go together, and that's customer skills, but also customer skills within your workplace with your colleagues. I think that's definitely something that's and I think genuinely it's hard work. Hospitality sounds wonderful, but it's hard work.
Yeah, no, and you can, I think, when you go into a hotel, I know when you go and walk into a hotel and those little things, if you're greeted by, I don't know, sometimes I've been greeted by like a drink or like some little perk, or just the person smiling behind the reception desk at you, all those small things do make a massive difference to your experience staying in a hotel. So I think, yeah, all the roles coming together, I think teamwork must play a massive part in it, because
Oh, yeah.
without you working as a team, it just doesn't work, I guess.
No, exactly. And that's, I think from anybody from, the receptionist coming in, or you're working with the meetings team or a team that's delivering an event, whatever, there's huge amount of teamwork. And, most hotels will have a daily brief meeting in the mornings where everybody from each department will meet at 10:30 in the morning. And then once a week, they do another event about what's coming up next week. So it is about one big family and one big team.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Usha, I'm going to hand over to you now to ask some questions.
Thank you, Chloe. And Lynette, so congratulations with your Kent Women in Business Awards for 2020. I see that's one of your highlights that you put on your slides. So well, behind you, is it? Well done and congratulations. Interesting that you mentioned when you were talking about how hard work it is in the industry, and I'm sure it really is, because you can see the staff working very long hours. You see them for breakfast and you see them again at night, or the other way around. So yeah, you do see that. And on that note, one of the questions the panel we had as a group was how do customers treat staff in hotels, because it's not always pleasant, and it must be very hard to still keep that smile and be positive. How is it for a member of staff to deal with that?
I think it's the same in any industry, whether you're working in retail, you're always going to have a customer that whatever you do is never going to be, right for that particular person. And I will tell you, I've probably had tears, when customers have been rude to me or whatever and things like that. But I think along the, as you grab older, my biggest thing is, just kill them with kindness. Do you know what I mean? If you're constantly polite to them and you're constantly nice to them, seriously, I think that's what you can always do. And I think that's what I would say to anybody and any youngster. I know that sometimes people think, you might be a waitress and somebody comes along and they think they're better than you because you're a waitress. But just be polite, just be kind. And I think that's all you can do. But I absolutely think that happens a lot. But I guess across all industries, really.
Really useful, a really useful skill to know that, because you're absolutely right. You kill them with kindness. There's not much for them to come back on, is there? Absolutely. So, Lynette, on another note regarding career progression, you've progressed amazingly well through the industry and the sector, and it's great to hear your journey. So, talking about that, if you're in as a receptionist or a waiter and you want to progress, did you, through your journey, have to study alongside moving through the ranks as part of that progression journey?
I actually did a couple of NVQs when I was a receptionist and a reservationist. They're level 2 NVQs, but they studied obviously within part of, I was lucky that we were, and I think it happens still a lot, you can have time out of work to obviously where they would come and see NVQ assessors. So I think that I don't necessarily feel like I studied necessarily a lot. I did those because I wanted to do those, and I was very supportive that I had that support from my, line managers. But I think it's just about being open and being honest and saying, I want to learn that, or I want to go and learn that. And I think, you can do degrees now in sales or in meetings and events and things. And I think that's wonderful that you can do a degree in it. But actually, what you need to sometimes know about what it's like to be on the floor delivering those events, do you know what I mean, as well? And I think that's why I think I've progressed within my career, is because I've been open and honest. I've tried different variants of where I want to go. And I think as you learn along the way, it makes me a better salesperson, because I won't sell something in terms of that an event necessarily can't take place because I know I've worked on the floor.
Brilliant. So that practical experience along the studying is so important.
Absolutely, I think it definitely is.
The question around COVID is going to come up, because hospitality is one of the sectors that's been hit really badly. So just a couple of questions. So firstly is, for you personally, the last 12 months has been extremely challenging and difficult for the sector and the industry. What have you taken away from it personally? What have you learned, and what have you adapted as a result of that?
This is a great question. Hospitality has been massively affected, as you know, over the last year, and it really saddens me. Actually could cry just even thinking about it. That's how passionate I'm about it. But personally, I think I am normally a very busy person, driving around, visiting customers. And personally, it's taught me, one, I need to stop being so hard on myself if I'm not achieving something in terms of, I think because I keep saying, I'm not busy enough, I'm not busy enough. I'm so used to being busy, but I forget that I still have a house to run. I still have children, do you know what I mean? I still have a husband, but it's because I'm not doing my normal busy running around, whatever. I just feel like I'm not. So I think one of the things personally I've taken is to stop being so hard on myself.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, because those of us that do cram a lot into our day, into our life, would find that hard to adjust, to adapt. So keeping to the same theme, what do you think personally is the future of the hospitality industry as a result of where we are? I know many hotels are looking to reopen May 17th, I think is the date that they're looking at. I know this because she booked into a hotel already as soon as they open, looking forward to a break. So what do you think is the future for the industry?
The future for the industry, I think, is going to be tough. I think that leisure guests will want to visit hotels very, very soon. I think that, like you say, people want to go on holiday, and I do think that staycation this year will be super busy as it was last year. We're really lucky in our industry that we have in our hotels, that we have a number of hotels that are wonderful for staycation breaks. So we are lucky that we are busy. Some of our hotels, though, many of our hotels are meetings and events hotels, and I think that's where the industry is going to struggle. I think, one, will an employer want to hold an event where they are not necessarily sure how their employees feel about taking people out of it and meeting people within hotels? And I think that's going to be a time. And I think corporate customers, which is the accountants that I look after, they're also going to think, well, actually, if you can still stay at home and you can still work from home, that's necessarily where that's going to be. So I do think that's going to take a while to grow, but I do think that leisure will come back very quickly.
And so opportunities for young people in the sector and the industry, because it's all about careers and opportunities for young people. Pathways, do you offer apprenticeship pathways for young people?
We don't at the moment, but we have done in the past, and previously in the past we've also offered degrees to people, so people have actually managed to study a degree while they're working with us as well. But I think due to the fact that we've changed companies about 18 months ago and how that's changed, and we'll be growing into the future, and obviously due to COVID, etc., I think that will change. But we have an excellent HR department who are working on careers, obviously, and growing people within hospitality. So I think that's something that we can do in the future. I definitely think enterprises will happen in the future. I just think at the moment, due to COVID, we actually need just to get our feet back on the ground and to understand where we go with that.
So would you say that young people are looking to go into the hospitality sector as a career option and opportunity for them? That is something that's not going to move for them at the moment, and they need to reconsider their options? I don't think so. I
think that, you know, career options are, you know, in terms of, I started obviously as a waitress or a receptionist, and I think those jobs are still very much out there. You know, at the moment, probably hotels are not necessarily offering full-time contracts for people, you know, whatever, because of the fact that they're trying to manage the business along with their expenses, etc. So I actually think that, you know, people that are looking for part-time jobs, etc., while they're still at school and while they're still studying, to see whether that's a career path they want to take, those jobs will still be available.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lynette. I'm just conscious of time as well. I could talk to you all day. Some fascinating stuff. You're so passionate about what you do as well. It's so obvious, it comes across in everything you say. So I'm going to hand you back to our lovely host, Chloe.
Lovely. Thanks, Isha.
Thank you so much. Lynette, you've been amazing. We'll have to do another event where it's like a whole hospitality day and you could host the whole thing for us, because you're so passionate, and you've got such enthusiasm that it's so nice hearing it, and it's so nice learning about an industry that maybe we didn't know as much about, and so you've taught us a lot. And I think everyone that's going to be watching this either as a recording or live today will, you know, take a lot away from this and may even reconsider their plans for the future.
You never know.
We're off. We're coming your way.
As I said in my LinkedIn post, if I could inspire just one person just to think of, you know, hospitality as a career, then I just think that my day is done, and I'm just delighted. And I can't thank you enough for asking me to be a part of the day, Chloe.
No worries, and thank you so much for joining us. Great, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Take care and have a good rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, Lynette was amazing. So I hope you've really taken some things away from that. I say I know everyone that I've had messages from definitely has. So up next we have another group of recorded speakers from different industries. We are going to be hearing from a lady called Alexandra Gordon. She is a partner at the law firm Brachers, as well as being president of the Kent Law Society. We are then going to hear a conversation between a marketing and communication specialist, Andy, and myself. So sorry, you'll see me on screen again. And finally, Annalie, who is the owner of a company called Woodstock Holistics. So please do enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Gordon and I'm a partner at Brachers Solicitors, which is a large regional law firm with offices in Maidstone and Canterbury. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you all today. I'm sorry I can't be with you live. I just want to give you a quick insight into my career as a lawyer. So I became a solicitor via the traditional route, and for me that looked like this. So I did my law degree, which was 3 years at the University of Kent. I then had a year at law school in London and then undertook a training contract for 2 years. On completion of that training contract, I qualified as a solicitor. Now, this is the traditional route, which at the time was the only route I knew about. But now there are ways of becoming a lawyer without going to university. So there are lots of different routes into the profession. For me, I think I always wanted to be a lawyer without really understanding what being a lawyer meant. So it wasn't until I went to the University of Kent that I undertook one of their modules called the Kent Law Clinic, where I got to deal with real life cases under the supervision of a solicitor. This, combined with the work experience that I did over my time at the University of Kent, really helped me realise that actually, yes, I did want to be a lawyer. I really loved learning and I really enjoyed the law. I also enjoyed maths. So there were always points during my time at the University of Kent where I thought, should I become an accountant? But I held off and qualified as a solicitor. And I'm glad I did, because now I practice in the private client area, which means that I deal with inheritance tax planning and estates. So there are lots of numbers about. So I get to enjoy my love of the law while also dealing with numbers on a daily basis. Once I qualified as a solicitor, I wanted to keep learning, and so I've done lots of different qualifications since qualifying. At the moment, I am a solicitor. I'm also a chartered tax advisor, and I very recently qualified as a notary public. The reason for doing these extra qualifications was to learn. I don't like not knowing everything. I know I never will, but I like to know as much as I can. The Chartered Tax Advisor qualification, I did that because I do love numbers, and tax comes into my daily job all the time. So for me, doing that extra qualification helps me with my day-to-day role, and also means that I can do a lot more number related work within my job. The notary public, not many people have heard of. So a notary is the third branch of the legal profession. So you have your solicitors, barristers and notaries. And their job is to deal with the authentication of documents for overseas work. So that's a new challenge for me. So my advice to my younger self would be to be patient. I struggled massively in the last year of my A-levels, and I didn't get the results that I was expected to get. But I persevered and I got my law degree, and I'm exactly where I want to be right now. And I think if I'd have known 10 years ago I would have been in this position, I would have told myself to be patient and that everything will be fine. My advice to you is work experience is key. So for me, yes, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but it wasn't until I did all of that work experience that I really knew that it was the role for me, and I really enjoyed the job. There are so many different types of lawyer, and for me, I don't go to court at all. I sit at my desk pretty much all day. I see clients all day, at the moment on Zoom, but constant client meetings, constant client contact. But you will get some areas of the law where you're obviously in court, or where you don't have that much client contact. So it's really important to understand that the law is very varied, and wanting to be a lawyer, you need to know a little bit more about what type of area you would like to go into, maybe, to know if it's right for you. So what's next for me? So I've recently qualified as a notary public, so I am in the training stage of that. I have an excellent supervisor who is getting me through. It's quite difficult, very different to being a solicitor, so it is challenging, which I like. I love to be learning. Also, I recently became president of the Kent Law Society, so trying to engage members during this time has been challenging, but we've had a fantastic probably last year or so, where we've put on loads of events for our members, including social events online, and also raised a lot of money for charity. I would also just say, as a little bit of advice, get yourself some fantastic friends who will support you through everything you do. You are probably going to meet most of my amazing friends this week, because a lot of them are giving talks. So get yourself a support network who are going to champion you through what you want to be, what you want. So get yourself a support network who are going to champion you through what you want to achieve, because anything is possible. Thank you.
Hi Andy, thank you so much for joining us and supporting us with our Kent and Medway Advisor Network International Women's Week. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you want to just start by telling us a little bit about who you are?
Of course. Hello, Chloe. Thank you so much for inviting me along. It's a privilege to join you all. My name's Andy Sutherden, and I'm a marketing and communications consultant. I'm really in the business of reputation, helping companies get a good reputation, keep a good reputation, and hopefully off the back of having a good reputation, their business will grow. So I've been working in that industry now for 30 years and have somehow managed to hold down a family at the same time. I should declare at the outset that I've got a long-suffering wife, the poor lady, and 2 teenage daughters. So I feel somewhat qualified to talk on this International Women's Week with 3 women in a 4-person household.
What do you think is the importance of giving girls the opportunity to explore different career paths and different industries?
Well, you know, it's so important to start with what I hope isn't an obvious comment, but it's encouragement around the theme of confidence, that women can be whatever they want to be, girls can become whatever they want to become. And this is borne out through research through my own work. I've had the privilege of reading over the years, and there's a management consultancy called McKinsey. And McKinsey, a big firm, big management consulting firm, and they had some really interesting insights to this that really primes this conversation, Chloe. And they tell us that the most gender diverse companies are 21% more likely to experience above average profitability. So if nothing else, young girls should know that if more women appear in the marketplace and appear in good businesses doing good work, that company is more likely to experience more profitability.
Why do you think it's important to have the balance between men and women in the workplace? I don't know if you've got any experiences yourself that you could share.
Yeah, I've thought about this subject a lot over the years, and one of the ways of answering it is just to remind us of the last point, that if you're in a business and you're a leader in a business and you lack gender diversity, the chances of you making better profit and more of a success of that business are somewhat limited. So apart from the point about a more gender balanced business is normally a more profitable business, I'd call out half a dozen things really, and let me try and sort of roll them up in my head as we talk. The first point I talk about is a wider talent pool, and by that I mean that half of the population is female, and that's a big percentage of people to overlook when recruiting. Secondly, more women in the workplace will help bring different perspectives, and I think that's a truth in society, isn't it? That if we surround ourselves with people like us, the perspectives that we'll get will basically be our own opinions bounced back at us. Thirdly, I talk about enhanced collaboration, because again, research proves that women have stronger skills when it comes to nurturing those around them. And that's not a stereotype, that's a truth. And if there are more women in the workplace looking out for colleagues, supporting them, helping bring out the skills that they inherently have, being in a very nurturing environment where people are encouraged to be the best they can be, the chances of that culture living in a workplace are very much enhanced if the gender balance is very equal. Which leads on to another point about improved team collaboration, and that companies tend to retain their staff longer if people feel as though they're working in a more collaborative environment. We've all been in these highly politicized, marginalized workplaces where you just don't feel as though you belong. And somehow when the gender balance is more equal, the nurturing impacts of having more women in the workplace normally leads to a greater sense of team collaboration. Gender diversity, the next point, also helps companies attract a better caliber of staff. So it's not just about keeping good people. I know very well that millennials today are actively looking for companies that exercise good diversity in the workplace. And good diversity often starts with gender diversity. So for the good businesses out there, it actually becomes a good recruitment device. And if you celebrate that kind of openness when it comes to gender diversity, funnily enough, you start to attract a higher caliber of talent.
So how do you think social media is used by employers, and why should young people of today be cautious online, particularly, you know, in these current times where social media is something that's, well, I guess it's the sort of center of everyone's lives, regardless of age, and
Yes.
particularly with the young people. So yeah, is there anything about social media and thinking about employers?
Well, as a father of two teenage daughters, how long have you got on that subject? I think there are two sides to this coin. On the one side, let's start with talking about social media as a force for good for business. It's a glorious shop window for companies now, where they can celebrate their products, they can celebrate their services, they can celebrate their culture. They can put their best people on the homepage. They can talk about the great things that they do inside the business, not only to serve their buying public, but to unite their workforce. Social media is a great shop window to talk about so many of the good things that happen inside organizations. And it has also helped me, let me tell you, recruit. And this is where we start moving onto the other side of the coin, because I know that just looking at the one dimension of a CV gives you a partial look at a candidate. So you have a new situation vacant and you go into the marketplace and you're looking for new people and you invite applicants, and those applicants send a CV and you read their CV. That is what I would call a one-dimensional view of an individual. So what you naturally do in a world of social media is that you get positively curious about the candidates that you're shortlisting. You want to know a little bit more about them so you can ask better questions of them when they come in the hope that they can ask you some good questions as well. But you just want the full picture of the individual that you're going to be meeting, rather than just the words that are written on a page, previously known as a CV. So when you go looking online for people's more rounded persona, you can be delighted by what you find. You can also be, frankly, horrified by what you find. And when you're delighted, the candidate has got such an advantage because they might be talking about a hobby that they have a passion for. They might have written about something in politics, let's say, where they have a strong, very well informed point of view. You can see them in their friendship circles having a great time. It will tell you a lot about how they are with people. These things are really important. But if you start seeing an individual that is acting irresponsibly, you only ever see pictures of them falling around drunk online, joining a bandwagon and trolling some other poor soul that is on the receiving end of a lot of abuse online. And that's very much something of the day, isn't it, in the news, where people are being trolled. Yeah. What I would say to individuals, regardless of gender, actually, is that please be very aware that what you do on social media is very much a fingerprint that you take into job interviews. And that fingerprint is seen and it's interrogated and it's used.
Thinking back to yourself as a young person, what would you, so say you're at school, maybe you're thinking about your options, or you're at a position now where you're thinking, oh, you know, maybe I'll be making my choices for my post-16 options. If you could go back and talk to your younger self who's sitting there thinking, I don't know what I want to do, or feeling the pressure a little bit, what advice would you give yourself?
Thank you for that question, Chloe. I can't remember what I did yesterday, so rewinding decades, I'm not going to give you my age, but that's an ask. Well, I would say the first thing actually that comes to my mind is learn, or at least keep, a language. My mother is Greek. My Greek was better than my English up until the age of about 6 or 7. I then went to school, got lazy. It was a bit weird that somebody could speak another language, and I just misplaced the language. I didn't use Greek anything like as much as I could have done, and I really regret that, because today in business, in the workplace, people who are bilingual are celebrated, and in business it's a huge advantage. Working overseas, if I had the choice, I would learn Mandarin, because there's so much business now in Asia. Having an Asian language is a huge advantage. But regardless of the language, keep it, cherish it, practice it. Don't allow people to say that you're a bit of a weirdo because you can speak 2 languages. Bit different today, of course, but certainly when I'm thinking about my younger self, I was fluent in Greek. Today I'm not, and that's a big regret. Secondly, I'd read more. I was too busy doing the whole jumpers for goalposts thing, and I was out and I was running around. By the way, that's to be celebrated. There are too many young people on their backside these days, so I'm not decrying the fact that being outside and being active and adventurous is a bad thing. Of course it's not. But in measure, I would say that I wish that I crafted more time to read something more than the back pages of a newspaper, because that's where my obsession was in the world of sport. And I would never read a newspaper when there was such a thing, front to back. I would always turn a newspaper round the other way and start with the sports pages. That was pretty much the only reading I did.
I'm Natalie Hughes, and I have a company called Woodstock Holistics, and I specialise in physical and mental rehabilitation. I work with people from anything from anxiety disorders all the way through to spinal and brain injury, rehab following traumatic injury. So it's quite a varied day-to-day life. So it actually never started out for me as a clear pathway into healthcare. That came later on. I actually left school, did a lot of traveling, as a lot of people did, and got a lot of jobs just to keep me going, paying my rent, etc. And I ended up going and doing an open university course at Reading University in building surveying and land management, which was interesting. I loved it. I worked for a company in Tunbridge Wells that I could work with while studying, so that I could get all of my experience as well, which was great. But then unfortunately, my mother got very, very sick, and I had to take 8 months off work to care for her. And my mother had always been into very permaculture and holistic and alternative lifestyle and healthcare. And although she was going through the regular healthcare route, she wanted to look into other more holistic things that would just keep her comfortable until she passed. So I helped her a lot with that, and then decided after she left that I was actually a lot more interested in people than buildings. So I left my job. I got myself a job working in the care sector. So I did domiciliary caring for a while, which was the most satisfying thing I've ever done. It just beautiful to be a part of someone's fulfillment in that way, you know, being there for people like that. It was incredible, which spurred me on. And I totally retrained in remedial massage therapy and Reiki therapy and mindfulness mentoring, and then worked privately as a therapist for a number of years, also within the healthcare sector. I also worked a lot with adults with learning difficulties as well. And then ended up wanting to know more about our own healthcare and social care system. Having done the domiciliary care work, I wanted to be more involved in that. And I got myself a job working in social services. And I did 5 years in adult social care in Kent. I started off in adult safeguarding for 3 years, and then went into community case management for 2 years after that. And I learned so much about working alongside other professional sectors in the care industry, and also did a lot of training, you know, in working with people with autism or understanding Parkinson's disease, moving and handling, and the roles of different professionals in the NHS and social care. And after I had my son, I decided that I wanted to go back to being freelance again so that I had the flexibility. So I left social care and set myself up in private practice again. And with all the other training that I've done, it built quite rapidly as a private business. And I've got to a point where I have a couple of other therapists now working under my brand name as self-employed therapists, but I have them because I can't manage the workload on my own. And I'm getting involved in lots more bigger projects, you know, as a health and well-being business, which is great. I think any career is going to have its challenges. And I think that's good because it makes us work harder. I think if we all had an easy ride would become very complacent, and whatever industry you're in, complacency just breeds laziness. And I think if we're going to keep giving a good service to people who need us, especially, as I say, in the healthcare industry, it's important to make sure that we're on our toes, and we're keeping an eye out for the latest legislations and the latest requirements and the latest social problems that are might be affecting the people that are coming to see us. So I like challenges. I like obstacles that need to be overcome. In the healthcare, for example, with many others, even if I was still working in the building industry, you have to continually build on your professional development, and to continue to learn. As I say, things change regularly with regard to government policy, legislation, different acts of parliament that are created, and you have to make sure you're operating within the law. So continually learning and continually improving or building on what you have shouldn't be seen as an obstacle. You know, if you're passionate about what you do, then you want to know these things anyway. So it's part of the joy of providing the service that we do, is making sure that we're the best at it and keep working. I think the main thing that people need to remember at this point is that the pressure that you are feeling is not that it's not necessary. Like I say, I think pressure and challenges is important for us all because it helps us strive to achieve better. It is never too late to change your mind. I did an entire degree course before I decided to ditch my job and do something totally different and retrain. I know an awful lot of very successful working adults who have had 2 or 3 career changes in their lives. You don't have to choose something now in your teenage years, you know, whilst you're at school, learning all sorts of different things. How on earth could you possibly understand the world enough to make that kind of life-changing decision? What are you interested in now? What are you enjoying now? What makes you happy now? What makes you feel passionate? Go with that, because you're more likely to succeed in something you're enjoying. And if at a later stage you get into that role and you find it's not what you thought it was, or actually you feel differently about that industry now that you've experienced it, change. Find something you are passionate in. It might be a small stepping stone away from where you are, in which case the qualifications you've done will help anyway. It might be a world away from what you've done. That doesn't matter. You just get a job to make sure you can pay your bills. There's hundreds of supermarkets out there, or anything else, and retrain. Try something new. It's, you know, everyone that I know laughs at me because I'm one of those people who likes to collect qualifications. I study all the time. I'm studying again now. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about what I do. So learning is not hard for me in that area because I want to know the information. If you are struggling to retain the information, or you're struggling to get your head around what's required of you, maybe it's the wrong choice. Maybe there's something else that you'd be better at. It doesn't matter. You are allowed to change your mind. It's not against the law. And this extraordinary pressure that's put on people to perform and succeed and to generate these spectacular results at such a young age through the education system is partially there because they want you to do well and they want you to succeed and they want to see you thrive, but partially because they don't want to look rubbish by having a whole load of bad grades. You know, this is not all about you having to be the best you can be now. This is about wanting to give you the best possible chance. It's not the be all and end all. The decisions you make now in school years does not define the rest of your life.
It's important to remember that this week is all about inspiring young people. It's important that we have meaningful encounters and interactions with employers so that we and the young people have the opportunity to learn about different industries and for young people to find out what they might be interested in as a future career path. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to Madeline Bishop. Maddie is a contracts manager at Eurovia. We're going to watch Maddie's video and then she's going to be joining me live for a Q&A session. So whilst you're watching the video, please be putting some questions in the chat box and we will be answering them in the Q&A session shortly afterwards. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, so my name is Madeline Bishop. I am a contracts manager working for Eurovia, who are a highways construction business. Basically what my job involves is managing a team and multiple teams of people that oversee and run construction sites, mainly highways and bridges, not buildings. So my teams consist of site agents who oversee the majority and the main running and operational side of a project, engineers who also work within that team, supervisors who work within that team, also ground staff who look after and build and are hands-on with tools to build these schemes. It also involves looking after a commercial team within that, so the people who look after the budgets for the project. I also then, as part of this, have to liaise with our clients to understand their needs for the project and what they want and what their expectations are. So I manage that process from the start of a project to the end of a project, and liaising between my team underneath me building the project and the client who we're working for, who have asked for the project, who are paying for it. I got here through studying sciences mainly for my A-levels, which was physics, biology and maths. I really enjoyed this and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. My physics teacher said to me, well, what about engineering? Have you thought about that? And I hadn't thought about it, and it was something that later I thought, you know what, that's something maybe that would be quite interesting to me. So I researched different types of engineering and I settled on civil. So I put an application into university and I went to university to study civil engineering as a bachelor's of engineering. And I've not looked back since. Since I started that, I obtained a placement with a company called Eurovia, who I currently work for. I then completed that placement, went back to university to finish my degree, and then Eurovia offered me a job on completion of my degree. And I worked through a graduate development program to gain experience on site and within different arms of the business. And then I moved into a role as a site agent looking after one project. And I've since relocated to the south area of the business and have been recently promoted to a contracts manager where I'm overseeing multiple teams on multiple projects. I think that my job is, for a female, is something that people are very surprised at. People ask me what I do and I say, oh, I'm a contracts manager for a construction site, so I work on the highways. And people think, oh, that's something different, and it's not something they typically expect. And I think that's because there's a stereotype around the type of people that work on highways. And I think the first one is that most of them aren't female. And if they are, potentially are not my age or don't look like me or whatever, but it is the last thing that people imagine that I do. And I think that is actually quite good and quite powerful. I think that it shows that if you want to do something, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to fit a certain mold or a stereotype or what people think you should be doing. You can do whatever you want to do. And I've got I've got a lot of enjoyment from my job just in the short amount of time that I've been doing it since I graduated in 2016. And I think that if I hadn't have done this because of maybe a stereotype or thinking that maybe it's not for girls or whatever, then I think that I would be filled with a lot of regret. And actually I gained a massive amount of confidence from coming into this industry and being surrounded by the people that I have. So it's not something that people would expect necessarily me to be doing, but it's something that I enjoy and that I'm good at, and I'm so glad that I pursued a career in. So guess my note for that is to say that if you want to do something, you've got an idea of something, you know, it doesn't matter what you think maybe the stereotype is, you should pursue it and follow what you want to. And my advice kind of to my younger self, and I think it's, to be honest, what I have always kind of followed anyway, but my advice is following that, you know, to people. I would say that you have to pursue what you enjoy. In terms of being successful, to me, success is about being happy, you know, having good well-being and enjoying what you do and wanting to get out of bed in the morning to go and do the job that you do. So my advice to anyone as a younger self would be, do what you want to do, and follow your passion, follow something that makes you excited, follow something that makes you want to get out of bed and do what you do each day. And I can't stress that enough. I love my job. I love the people that I work with. I get challenged every day with difficult things and problems to solve, and I find it really rewarding. And that would be my advice, is that just do exactly what you want to do. Don't fit into a mold of a stereotype, and make sure that whatever it is that you choose is that something that you're choosing and you enjoy it. And lastly, kind of following from this, in terms of my plans for the future, my plan is to continue working for Eurovia. I want to continue to work through the management teams and the management tiers within this business, and potentially move around to different areas of the business to broaden my knowledge and experience and try new things as well. So that's a little bit of a summary from me about who I am and what I do and how I got here. Thank you for listening, and I hope it's been useful and insightful for everybody.
Great, thank you. Maddie, if you're there, did you want to put your camera on and unmute yourself, please?
Hi, yeah, hang on, I'm just working out how to put my webcam on. Give me a second.
Oh, no, there you are. There you are. Hello.
There you go.
Hi, Maddie. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great video. Learned a lot about the industry you work in. I didn't know too much about it, so thank you. And I'm sure everyone who's watching this will take some things away from that too. So just going to ask you a couple of questions. Don't worry, none of them are actually going to throw you off at all.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
So the first one being a question that I've asked all of our guests, I think, over the week, because this week is all about inspiring others. Who would you say is your inspiration? Who's been your role model and why?
Who's been my role model? I wouldn't say I particularly had a specific role model, but when I was back doing my GCSEs, I really looked up to what was my physics tutor at the minute at the time, and I think that was because he really guided me and gave me a lot of helpful information and really pushed me in a direction that I didn't really know I wanted to go in. And he was somebody who always supported me. He was someone who I could always pick up the phone to. And I think in terms of like an inspiration, he's somebody that I looked up to for advice, and who I just thought a lot of. And I think as a person, that's what, you know, I like to think that other people potentially think of me. You know, there's somebody that they can come to, they can ask for advice of. And yeah, I think for me that's someone who I always sort of held like that. There isn't necessarily like an icon that I would say that I look up to, but as a person, he was somebody that I always had a lot of respect for, and I would always go to for that advice. So yeah, I would probably say him.
Great. Yeah, thank you. I think teachers sometimes, yeah, they play such an important role in helping you make your decisions and look into your future and inspiring you. I think a lot of people would agree with you. So in your video, you mentioned about having to relocate at some point to further your career. What insights would you, or could you pass on to any young people who might be watching, or anyone who's watching that may find themselves in a similar situation? Just any kind of insights or advice to anyone who is, potentially going to have to do the same thing?
I think I understand what you're asking. I think firstly, if you get an opportunity to do something that is going to broaden your knowledge or potentially give you an opportunity to progress, then take it. If you're in a position to, whether that's because, I don't know, you live on your own, you're not particularly tied anywhere, I would 100% always say take that opportunity, because you don't know where it'll go. You know, you want to keep as many doors open in life as you can, and you kind of regret the things that you didn't do. So I think the first bit of advice would always be take those opportunities, and throw yourself in at the deep end a little bit. You know, look to create a new network in the new place that you're in, whether that's friends and colleagues within your working environment, or whether that's joining a local, I don't know, a sports club or whatever, to kind of build that network. I've been down in Essex now for about 2 years, and previously I'm from the north of the country, and I've been there my whole life. And I would say that now being in Essex is more home for me now than being up north, just because I threw myself in, made friends down here, and just kind of threw myself into work down here. And I think that for me is the key. If you're going to do something, take the opportunity and really throw everything at it, and that's when you'll see success, if you really put everything into it. That's what my advice would be. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So again, on your video, you mentioned that your plan is to stay with the company and to move around and maybe try out different departments. You may not have an answer just yet, but is there any particular departments or particular areas that you think you might be leaning towards to move into next in the next stage of your career?
Yeah, I think it's about different challenges. So I've mainly worked in the contracting team, which is mainly building and maintaining kind of our highways, bridges, public realm schemes as well. And I think that for me, a different challenge where I potentially like to go is maybe into central London. And we have just won our London contract. And I think the challenge of going into London, the challenges are completely different. So even though we might be doing similar schemes, actually going into that side of our business logistically is completely different. You know, how we manage our works, how we manage working around the public, and actually just looking at things from a different point of view, because the situation we're in is completely different, and the priorities that we have to have are completely different. And for me, like, I think that's it for me. It's a different challenge, it's a different way of looking at things. So I'd really like to do that, and moving to London, I think it would be a good opportunity.
Yeah, it'd be busy. It'll be a busy working in there.
Yeah, very.
So, if you could pick, and I know there's lots and lots of transferable skills, but if you could just highlight sort of 3 skills for anyone who is looking to work for a similar company, or potentially in a similar role to what you're currently in, what 3 skills would you sort of say are essential to do the work that you do?
I would say number 1 is probably being able to be personable with people. You've got to be able to talk to a lot of different people at different levels, on different levels as well. So potentially senior managers down to trainees and graduates, and then that then goes kind of away from like the trainee to managers level when you're talking about different types of people. So maybe the relationship you have with a client to the member of the public, like different levels of people. And I think being able to switch the way you speak and the language that you use and how you approach different people, whether that's the environment you're in as well. Maybe it's a hostile environment, maybe it's a calm environment, maybe it's more professional, more relaxed. And I think being able to have those personable skills and be able to present yourself to different people is probably one of the most important things, especially when you're talking about presentation skills, whether, you know, a lot of the things we do now are over Teams, which may change, but I think it's probably here to stay. And I think even being able to present yourself to a room of people through a computer screen is really important. So I think that kind of presentation and personable skills of people is kind of number 1 for me. And it helps you build relationships with people, which obviously brings about being able to, you know, whether that's ask for help or favours or whatever, it puts you on a level with people where you've built a relationship, and that is really important, especially in this industry. I'd also say, like, being organised is really important. You know, from kind of a project management standpoint, which is essentially what I'm doing, is, you know, being able to organise, keep tabs of everything that's going on and structure your day and structure your diary is probably, you know, if not secondly, like another thing that is probably the most important thing you can do if you haven't got good organisational skills. There's a lot going on all the time, and if you're not on top of that, then things do sort of run away with you very quickly, especially when you've got big teams working underneath you. So I would say having that kind of timekeeping and organisational head and being able to really structure things well, whether you do that by writing things down or you diarise all your time, and however you do that, I would say that is definitely one of the most important things, alongside just being able to have good conversations with people and change your sort of personal skills. But yeah, I would say they're my kind of two kind of most important things that I would really say that people need to understand firstly, and then really practice in whichever way possible.
Great, perfect, thank you. And then one final question. So there's a lot of young people watching this, and this is going to be broadcast to lots of over 100 schools and colleges who are going to be watching this. For anyone who is interested in getting into your industry, what are the kind of main routes that they could take? So say they're finishing year 11 or they're at college, or what routes are there? Are there apprenticeship options? What would you suggest?
Yeah, so well, firstly, it completely depends what kind of thing you want to go into. So with the construction industry as a whole, you know, it's not just looking at building something. There's a lot of elements to it. You know, we still have people who manage the costs. We have people who manage the health and safety. We have people who manage operationally what goes on site. We have people who plan the works. You know, there's a lot of different elements. So I think the first thing to understand is not necessarily that you want to go into building something, but kind of the picture as a whole. And if you like the idea of the industry, but you like maths, for example, you know, you might want to go into maybe the commercial side of things. And it's understanding what you actually want to do, because it can be applied to this industry in any capacity. You know, it's a business at the end of the day. It's the same as anything else. You know, you need all arms of the business. It's not just about building something. So I would say that understanding what it is you want to do, and then there is ways you can go into apprenticeships. All top tier companies that I'm aware of in this industry, including Eurovia, do apprenticeships and do traineeships, whether that's through a HNC at college or a HND. The companies support you to do that, and also then get on-site learning as well with the teams that you'd be working in. The other option is obviously to continue and do A levels after college, after school, and go into college. And I would suggest concentrating on a science and a maths, and then something that you enjoy, and then potentially going into a civil engineering degree or a quantity surveying degree if you want to go into the more commercial kind of money side of things, and looking into maybe construction management. So they're the kind of things that I would look at if you wanted to go down the more academic route. And then there's the other options of actually just going directly to companies and looking for jobs that they are advertising where you'll get on-site training, and then working your way through that. So there is lots of opportunities, but all of these top tier companies, including Eurovia, do graduate programs, do apprenticeship programs, constantly recruiting throughout the years. They have all this information on their careers website and on LinkedIn. So any adverts are displayed on there. Alternatively, if you just contact them through the contact pages on the websites, especially Eurovia, they will get back to you with any kind of careers and vacancies. But yeah, there's lots of opportunities, especially for apprenticeships, and it is something that the industry is big, but it is kind of dying a little bit. It's seen as a bit of an old man's trade, so there is not so many young people coming through, and there is a lot of apprenticeships and opportunities for people. So I would say just reach out, go on the websites, and there will be there. And if they're not, just contact these companies, and they are very, very willing to have those conversations with anyone's situation.
Perfect, great. Thank you for that, and thank you for that answer in particular, because I think just showcasing all the different routes, all the different options, and giving young people the option to think about what subjects they should be taking, all the different routes, and how to find those opportunities. So particularly like on LinkedIn and looking on the websites. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you contributing to the week. And your video will be live on our YouTube channel so that other people can watch it, as will this broadcast. So I'm sure you'll be inspiring hundreds and hundreds of people over the next couple of months. So thank you for joining us, and hope to work with you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Chloe.
Thanks. Okay, so our last guest for today is also live with us. So Natalie Lester is an area manager at Southeastern Railway. We're going to be watching Natalie's video. And similar to Maddie, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. And when we do the Q&A session, we can address any of those questions. So firstly, here's Natalie's video.
Hi, I'm Natalie Lester. I'm an area manager at Southeastern. I manage stations between Hastings, Tunbridge, Ashford and on the Maidstone East and Maidstone West line. I'm also the WIRE chair, which is Women in Rail Empowerment, and that's a colleague group set up for staff to work through issues that they may find in the workplace that we need to improve on. So we've improved stuff like the maternity policy, paternity policy, but also talking about things like menopause has become the norm now at Southeastern. My typical day within an area manager role is really varied, so it can be anything from managing sickness of our staff through performance, through massive disruption, anything that you can imagine that can go on a station. So we have ticket offices, we have train dispatch staff, so it's really varied. I also, as an area manager, have 6 station managers and an admin team who I manage to kind of go through all of the day-to-day stuff with our station staff, but make sure that we're getting the best passenger experience and the best colleague experience when they come to work. So it's really, really varied. We work with unions to make sure that we are doing our best for our colleagues, but we also work with community groups. We work with all aspects of the railway, including Network Rail. So every day is different. It's pretty busy, but that's probably what I love about the job the most, is it's very, very varied. As I touched on earlier, I had clearly no idea what I wanted to do as a career. I was into amateur dramatics, and I kind of dabbled in that a little bit, but I had no idea what I really wanted to do. And I think it's absolutely fine for you not to know. And to be fair, I think even now, you know, I really enjoy my job, but where I want to go on the railway, there's so many opportunities. So it doesn't mean that you have to stay in the same sort of role forever. So I think that it's absolutely fine for you to not know what you want to do. What I would say is that you go with something that you're passionate about, something that you enjoy, because then going to work makes it so more fulfilling if you actually enjoy something. So if you want to make a difference, then go into a role that would make a difference to someone. I think people were quite surprised when I said that I joined the railway, because it's seen, or was seen, as a more of a male orientated role. I think that's even changed in the 12 years that I have been on the railway. So I do think that people's reaction is very different now to what it was when I first joined. What I would say is that the reaction within the business has always been that that I have a place within the business, and that my career journey, I think people outside looking in on what I've achieved while I've been on the railway will now see that the railway is a really positive place to work. My advice to my younger self would absolutely be to believe in myself. I think that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve if you put your mind to it. And I'd also say to my younger self, do what you're passionate about. There was a couple of roles, as I said, about call centres, I really didn't enjoy and wasn't me. I wasn't giving anything back, and I've always wanted to be able to make a difference. So I would have said to my younger self, start looking at roles that would have made an impact to you as well as somebody else, because that will mean that I would make my full potential, and I would really enjoy going to work. There were points that I really didn't enjoy going to work, whereas now I look back and I wish that I'd joined the railway earlier. But that is probably my biggest piece of advice to anybody watching, is that you just have to believe in yourself and do what's right for you. So my career so far, I came out of school with GCSEs, but I actually dropped out of my first year of A-levels and ended up in call centres, which I really didn't enjoy. I didn't feel like I made a difference. So I started looking for roles where I thought I could make a difference, and the Rail Enforcement Officer came up for Southern Railway. I was successful in my application and I joined there and was there for a number of years before I then took on the role of Station Manager over on Southeastern. From there, I then moved on to Area Manager, where I've been for the last 3 years, and I've also taken on the chair of the WIRE group, Women in Rail Empowerment, which sees me doing a variety of tasks to hopefully empower women within the rail industry.
Great. That was really informative, Natalie. And if you are there, if you could just put your camera on and take your sound off, that would be fabulous.
Ah,
Oh,
is that
hello.
working?
I can hear
Hello.
you. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
You're just popping up now, I think.
yeah. Oh, hello. You're seeing actually the back of my screen. I can turn it round. Let's see if we can turn it around. Unfortunately, I couldn't try it before, so that's not great. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
Here we go. Let's see whether that works. I'm not sure it will. Is that working?
Oh, there you are.
Hello. I can't see myself, so I hope you can see me.
Yes, no, I can see you. Great. Well, thank you, Natalie, for joining us today. Enjoyed your video. I think it's really useful to hear about your own career journey, especially being a woman in this particular industry, because it isn't necessarily thought of. You mentioned that in the video, that it's not, or people are surprised when you work for the railways because it's seen as a sort of stereotypically male sort of orientated area. My first question would be, again, with the theme of the week: who is it that inspires you, or who would you say is your role model, and that has helped sort of inspire you to get into the roles that you have and to take the career path that you have?
I suppose I've had quite a lot of coaches and mentors over my career, I suppose, and so there isn't particularly one person, but I would definitely recommend that if you're struggling at some point within your career to kind of find your route, is definitely worth speaking to somebody and getting a coach or a mentor. And actually, in Tony's video earlier, she mentioned that that's what she does, and that really built my confidence. So one in particular is Siobhan Bradshaw, who is our revenue and security manager. She is a higher level than myself within the business, and I approached her being what I would view as an inspirational person within the railway and a woman in the railway, to kind of overcome any challenges that I was feeling in terms of being a woman and being, the best version of me as an area manager. But I think I couldn't pinpoint, just like everybody else, I suppose. I struggled to pinpoint one person because I think actually in your career you're going to come across many people, but that's probably my other words of advice, is if you can find somebody that you can confide in, be really honest about how you're feeling, that may boost your confidence and will help you to come to your own conclusions, actually.
Great. Yeah, and I think that's really I've asked this question to everyone throughout the week, and I think it is really important that you say what you said, that it isn't necessarily just one person. So yeah, making sure that you meet people and talk to people and are inspired by others, multiple people, I think will help really develop you as a person and help develop your own career paths. Great, thank you. Right, we've got lots of questions. I'm just looking through. How many, do you have an idea of sort of the percentage of how many women actually work in the railways at all? Maybe for Southeastern, if you don't know the whole sort of country.
Yeah, I don't know the whole country. So at the moment at Southeastern we have 17% of women, 17, not 70. So 17%. And we find that some roles are more attractive to females within the rail industry than others. So we have a lot of admin clerks that, would be women, whereas engineering, for instance, has 3 to 4% that are women. But that is something that we are striving to change. There is absolutely nothing stopping a female from doing that job. It is just about the perception. And I had a train services director, Ellie Burrows, who now works for Network Rail, and she was talking about a colleague within Southeastern whose daughter had said, I can't be a train driver, mum, because in Thomas the Tank Engine they are all male and there aren't any females. And I suppose where, you know, this kind of comes into coming into schools and to try and help, you know, people think differently, because engineering is such, you know, a diverse part of our business, and the same with train driving. It's really quite an interesting part that we want people to think differently, and we kind of have to come in and talk to people about it. Otherwise people will kind of sideline that and think something else is more exciting. But we have 4,500 employees within Southeastern, and there are so many roles. So we touched on it earlier with hotels, how many different roles. There are, I would say, more roles actually within the rail industry. Looking at that list, there, once you get into the railway, there are so many different paths. So yeah, I would say that most rail companies are around the same percentage at 17%, but we are working really hard. I'm on a particular board with other members. I've got 10 other members in an equality, diversity and inclusion charter, which spans across 140 different train operating companies and businesses associated with them, to try and change how we view our diversity, and to try and influence all of the different train operating companies to buy into everything that we want the railway to be. So so there'll be great opportunities coming up, and what a better time than now. COVID has completely changed things, so it's really exciting actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. And actually following on nicely from that, you mentioned all the different roles that they have within Southeastern. And one of the questions I have here is, does Southeastern employ civil engineers themselves, or is that done through other companies that they kind of bring in?
Okay, so probably the best way of describing it is that Southeastern is in charge of the train running and anything that happens on a station. Anything when it comes to the railway tracks or the buildings, I suppose you could say that we rent them from Network Rail. That's probably the best way of describing it. Network Rail is our landlord, if you were looking at that. So so in terms of engineering, the roles within Southeastern are very much engineering based, are around the train itself, whereas actually when it comes to the track and the infrastructure around that, that's through Network Rail. But they equally have some fantastic opportunities around the country, and it does span the whole country, whereas obviously Southeastern is predominantly in Kent. So you can move around. However, once you're in a train operating company like Southeastern, I've been on Southern and GTR, which is Croydon and West Sussex and that area, and then I moved over to Kent. So just because you've been with one train operating firm doesn't mean that you have to stay there. There's lots of possibilities.
Great, thank you. Do female passengers like to see more women on the railways? Have you ever had any comments or sort of feedback from passengers regarding women that are working on the platforms or in other areas of the railway?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is reassuring, particularly, you know, if you're on a night service. You know, lots of people get quite you know, nervous about maybe travelling late at night, and if they see a train driver or a conductor that is a female, they may feel more reassured, and we have had feedback on that. But I think the majority of our role at Southeastern is to represent the communities we serve. So that's in diversity and from inclusion from all kind of genders and diverse cultures. So so yeah, I mean, if you go into central London, you know, we've got lots of females but also different backgrounds, and I think that's really reassuring to our passengers that somebody works there that they can relate to for their location. So I think, yeah, it's definitely something we've had feedback on, and something we strive to kind of achieve actually, is that people have that option. And I see it actually in other industries, which I find quite fascinating, like taxis or plumbing, that actually if you're a female and you don't maybe want to access a service that's provided by a male, you do have that option, and we want to get to that point where people see that we represent everybody in the community.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. one final question. There's so many questions here. I could ask you lots of questions all day. For anyone who's watching, or any young people that are going to be watching this broadcast that are interested in getting into the railway industry, thinking about locally, so maybe thinking about Southeastern, what different routes are there? What should young people be looking out for? Or where should they be researching to get into the industry?
So we do run a lot of apprenticeships now. So we run them, we advertise them on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. We also do events. So once COVID hopefully ceases a little bit, and we've actually, looked at doing different things online. So keep an eye out for events where you can come along and ask questions of people that are within the particular area that you're interested in. Through Southeastern's website, you can find all of the roles. But to be honest, a lot of it is about going out and about. So if you're really interested in the train companies, then go to your local station and talk to people, and they can point you in the right direction. Lots and lots of great advocates of the railway out there that will be happy to help. Station managers, conductor managers, they will take the time to speak to you about it. But mainly it's kind of, if you're looking for vacancies, it will be online. In terms of getting yourself in the best possible position, anything we do is about our passengers and our people. So really good communication skills. We talked about working in a hotel. Actually, a teenager working and getting that experience in front of house in a restaurant is fantastic, because you're getting used to interacting with people. And the way that we are moving through COVID is that we want to introduce people back to the railway, and they are going to expect a fantastic service for their money. They've been working from home, and what we want to do is create a culture that they feel really safe and that they feel really welcome. But also, we can have a lot of people staying in the UK, as mentioned earlier, for staycations, who never travel on the railway. So we need to be making sure that they feel really welcome and feel like it's a friendly service that goes above and beyond. So anything you can do to get those interpersonal skills, talk to people, get that communication skills, written and verbal, up to standard. I think that is the best way that you can prepare yourself. And for interview, think about your life experiences. Bring along your true self to an interview. We want to see, we want everybody to bring their true self to work. So we want you to bring your experiences and how you've dealt with situations. We have probably the one thing that people don't expect is, as we said, I suppose, in the hotel industry, it's no different. We get lots of people that have high expectations, and it is quite difficult sometimes dealing with people in disruption where a train is not coming, and they expect it to. So putting yourselves in those situations and getting used to those situations, and bringing those examples along to an interview to show your resilience and how you deal with it, would stand you in very good stead to demonstrate you've got the skills to be on the railway.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for all of that advice, and sort of pointing out where not just young people but anyone watching that are interested in getting into this industry can look. So Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, I could ask you 100 more questions, but unfortunately we don't have the time. But yeah, your video and this broadcast will be up on will be circling it on social media and also on our YouTube channel. So it will go out to all of our schools. So I'm sure you will help inspire a lot of young people watching. So thank you for taking the time to speak to us today, and hope to work with you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our broadcast today. It's been a real pleasure hosting today, and remember that today's theme is you. So it's all about your skills, reflecting on your passions and your interests, and making sure that you think about the right decisions for you. So work hard and do what makes you happy. Thank you to all of our contributors today. We've had some great questions. We've had some great Q&As. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We'll be posting more inspirational videos throughout the day on our Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network LinkedIn page, through our Instagram page, and on our new Kent Wow TV channel. Please join us tomorrow for another full day of inspiring contributors from the world of work. Tomorrow's broadcast will be live from 1:30 until 3 p.m. So if you have any questions beforehand, please do contact us on the following email address, kentandmedwayean@theeducationpeople.org. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.